First of all, I see a very connected Africa, a necessary connection for Africa to develop. So one of the things that I'm making sure that we can do a lot more is to make sure that young upcoming leaders in Africa, like myself and young leaders across the continent, have more platforms for interaction so they can understand their shared communities. Many of them don't even know that really the things that young people want in Malawi are the same things young people want in Uganda. They're the very same things young people want in Senegal. Whether you're Francophone, Anglophone, or you're, from a different placing, it's really the same challenge across Africa, being a very young continent. The challenges are, the needs are the same. So the future past is to connect that Africa, let it realize that it is one. It is really borders that are separating them, but there's so much that makes a Ugandan similar to a Kenyan, that makes a Kenyan so similar to a Tanzanian. If you want, you can go across from one part of Africa to the other, and you'll see that there is so much that is principally the same. The difference is that we are nation states that were divided in a meeting where no African attended. So that kind of building block will then propel us into understanding that from the onset of your leadership as a young leader in Africa, your agenda must somehow include meeting up and connecting with the agenda of young people all over the continent and creating some sort of singular agenda that builds a continental energy to achieve something continental. And that push, that capacity, then propels us, to become generational leaders and to leave a mark on the continent as a contribution of our generation in leadership. I actually think it's an identity crisis. I think young Africans are more inclined today to be a part of a global society that they have forgotten their own needs. It is very easy to be a part, to feel like, you're not so far from Beyonce, because as soon as she releases a song, you can be a part of those that receive it immediately as a notification. It is very easy to, feel like your university education and your few Zoom calls and conference attendances place you in a position of shouting more than contributing, because your society needs more contribution than just pulling down, So it is an identity crisis of knowing that you are part of a society that needs leadership from everyone in it, that needs people that are dedicated to building towards a goal much more than people that are dedicated to talking about other people's goals and pulling them down and analyzing leaders to show who is the biggest failure. So everyone really having a conscious contribution to the person that is that is an African, and seeing how they can contribute in a definitive way to the development. And for me, that's really the question, identity crisis. If the African youth can understand their identity, unfortunately, education today in Africa is also global education. It's an education that enables you to interact with many more people. And so it is very easy for you to be taken up by the whims of what's available in the world and aspire to, university rankings like Yale, like Harvard, and forget that after that, you are needed in the society where you come from to make a different impact. So you find young Africans who have the capacity and have built the capacity to actually cause impactful change are taken up by their dreams. And what dreams are they? Their dreams to, be a part of a bigger global icon status, be a part of, an elite part of the globe and so on. And they forget that the strategy that made Asia and the Asian tigers come on board as part of the dominant economies in the world, and in fact, the economies to look out to and hear from, was that they looked inward to their need. They did not look outward to their competition. They looked inward to their need, and they defined what works for them. Communism would never have produced the development it produced in China if China had not seen their competitive advantages. Same goes for Singapore, where it is capitalism, but capitalism that came with a different sense of purpose. Where you talk about South Korea and understanding their strength being in community organization and organizing masses and masses of peasants to just contribute to one part of a production chain that would change the country's output capacity at the top. So it is really people that have had the chance to go far from Africa, whether it's in education or it is in access to opportunity, maybe become a big football star, to now translate that opportunity and learning to opportunities back home to the people that are in your community. I'll give you a good example. Sadio Mane, who now plays for Liverpool. If you found out how much money people earn for the talent that they have chanced to have, it's crazy. They earn way more than many African millionaires and billionaires who are bragging around. But for them to be able to just say, let me actually use my experience, even not my money, but my experience, to let Africa know that this is how you develop a system that develops youngsters who are not necessarily the most talented, but the discipline gets them home. And so they can play an organized system. That is what is really missing. That if you can have people who have attended major education systems in the world, use that to insist on how education must be addressed in Africa, and not just come to use it to make money from African governments, and be a part of those that get rich quickly and look towards their families' well-being and continuing their families, super status of being the family that takes their children to Harvard or something like that. So that really, for me, is where we need the work. When Africans talk to themselves about themselves, they suddenly realize how much they don't know. How much they don't know that they're similar and so on. So that civic space engagement is the first thing for building political consciousness. That's one. But then two, Africans should stop taking bullshit. And when I say Africans should stop taking bullshit, excuse the language, it's really just that. You cannot be people who are educated in a society and you don't take the responsibility to offer guidance to a society which is continuously manipulated by a few people. Someone just comes because he has had more money in this society. He just continuously keeps buying off the voters at the end of the campaign time. 5 years, they do nothing. 7 years in some countries, 4 years in others, they do nothing. And then at the end of the day, no one is able to talk to that community about changing that cycle of how they give mandate. It's not about the salt or the small token that you get on election eve. It's about the big product that they have delivered on 5 years or 4 years of being in office. And until the educated African takes that responsibility as their own, we are so much into a walk in a desert place, really, in Africa. So that really, for me, is the second thing. Then finally, we need to invest in Africa, and we need to invest in African knowledge, African understanding of themselves. I think that, for me, one of the things that pains me most is that most of the investment into Africa is done to Africa. It's done for Africa. You find, I don't get it, African governments giving up some of the most core things as investing in young people in Africa, understanding who they are and what their challenges are. And they just allow that to be the work of civil society organizations alone. That is a very important step in those people getting a very strong sense of purpose for who they are as a people, and using that to drive them and propel them into action. And that for me is also a very important thing.